Good. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Record of attendance. Oh, Linda's not here. Yeah. Sorry, Jer, I don't know how to do it. Good. Okay, record of attendance. Any declarations of conflict of interest, anybody? And approval of agenda, any additions or deletions? So I am after a approval of the agenda, please.
So moved, seconded, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, so we're at a public hearing, and what happens here is we want to hear from the public on these issues. So if anybody wants to speak to anything, I will ask 3 times, and if no one wants to speak, we'll move on to the next issue. Council doesn't make any comments or anything during this time. We just make those decisions later in the council agenda, and the council meeting starts at 7:30. Okay, so the first order of business is to consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw to rezone 112 Parade Street to medium-density residential R2 as outlined in the planner's report. Would anyone like to speak to this? Anybody here want to speak to this one? And a third time, would anybody like to speak to this issue? Okay, hearing no one, we'll move to 5B. 5B is to consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to fix various cross-reference corrections and minor conflicts that outlined in the planner's report. Anybody want to speak to this? Anybody want to speak to this issue? And a third time, would anybody in the audience like to speak to this? Okay, hearing no one, we're on to 5C. To consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw to permit accessory buildings in the front yard within the institutional zone as outlined in the planner's report. Anybody want to speak to this one? Anyone want to speak to this issue? And a third time, anybody in the audience want to speak to this? Okay, hearing no one, we're on D. To consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw to permit accessory buildings in the front and flanking yard within the general commercial C2 and commercial industrial CI4 zones as outlined in the planner's report. Anyone like to speak to this one? Anybody? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Clark, come right up. Just let us know your name, where you're from. Yeah, you need the mic. Thank you.
Clark Sigfridson, small business owner here in Yarmouth. I think I know most of you.
I think so. Welcome.
You're probably going to get tired of seeing me here next.
No, we won't.
Okay. So I'm going to provide a tangible example here. If you go down and review 3B in this proposal, 3B is of concern to me, and I will explain why. Recently, I was exploring the possibility of putting in a semi-permanent structure in Stars Road other than a food truck. So I was looking at using a shipping container and converting that into a unique cafe. And with this, I would have also liked to have continued the drive-through, so to have drive-through capabilities in the cafe. But this 30-foot limitation makes that nearly impossible. So you couldn't have a drive-through and people walking up, or parking spaces for a small building in that area, and have a drive-through safely. So this was a concern, so I scrapped the idea. So having that 30-foot setback could be limiting and may have some unintended consequences. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention, maybe for further discussion or review.
Okay.
You know, as proposed here, as far as storage sheds, and there's a wonderful diagram of a storage shed in front of Kent, and that makes perfect sense. But if you extrapolate that a little bit, it can be complicated for somebody like me if I wanted to do something a bit more interesting. So limits creativity. We do want to turn Stars Road into a more pedestrian-friendly area, and I understand that setback would encourage that because it's closer to the sidewalk. And maybe, perhaps Jeff, you would know, it could be my interpretation, but in my discussions with development office, it seemed that 30-foot mark was pretty solid. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you for your time.
Good. Thanks, Clark. Okay, anyone else want to speak to this? One more time. Anybody else want to speak to this one? Okay, hearing no one, I am looking for a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, so let's go in